former governor of Bayelsa State and a sitting senator, Senator Seriake Dixon, yesterday dumped the People's Democratic Party and moved to the Nigerian Democratic Congress, NDC. Also, a Cross River Assembly lawmaker has been suspended. The lawmaker representing Obubra, one state constituency, his name is Dixon Ovat Agbo. He's been suspended indefinitely over alleged domestic assault. The video that made it to social media had a woman who is alleged to be his wife with really swollen red eyes. As a matter of fact, she must have been battered badly for her to sustain that level of injury. Now, according to a report, the decision followed the motion filed by Davis Etta and seconded by Francis Bassey Asuko during plenary yesterday. And of course, Etta condemned the alleged violent conduct involving Agbo, describing it as behavior unbecoming of a lawmaker and contrary to the ethical standards expected of members of the legislative arm of government. It is very important to note that being a member of the legislative arm of government or the executive or whichever arm and whichever level you are playing at doesn't make so many humans immune to being caught up by the law when they default. I recall sometime in the past, a mayor of Newi North local government area, Mbazuliki Loka, also was on the news for reasons surrounding the controversial death of his wife. According to reports, she also was a victim of domestic violence before her eventual death. Developments like this would make anyone pause and have a second thought. What exactly is going on with people who should be leading and living by examples? Of course, all of these and many more insecurities spreading across the country or your Ondo Kebi are in the news today for different reasons. Also, that core member who was kidnapped and has still not been released. According to some reports, speculations are he might just be dead after about 10 million naira had already been raised and paid by his family. Is another really sad development in the Nigerian space today. Not also forgetting the fact that the raging war in the Middle East is still affecting things in Nigeria and across the world, as major economies in the world have so much to depend on oil for. But then, all of these we get to look at, and even many more on today's edition of the Polity. Good morning to you and welcome. My name is Chisom Chinedu. Franklin Ebuka is here. Good morning, Frank.
Good morning, Chisom. Good morning, Tony, and good morning to everybody. I know Fridays to be days when you get to see, light developments in the papers because the week is winding up. But today seems to be the opposite because there are plenty of headlines that are very interesting on the pages of newspapers. It just highlighted what happened in Cross River State, where a lawmaker battered the wife. If you look at the face of the wife, of course, you have to cry for the woman. But what caught my interest is that yesterday, the House suspended the man indefinitely. That same yesterday, the wife went, he went public. Okay, not public this time. She issued a statement saying that she has apologized to the husband. And that people
say that again. She's apologized to the husband, or the husband has apologized to her.
She has apologized to the husband.
Interesting.
And people should allow them to handle their matter that is being handled privately. So that is the interesting part of this whole thing. And guess what? Too, she also left the association of lawmakers' wife in that very state. Perhaps the group was the one responsible for, putting the story out there and getting the House to suspend the man. Then you leave that very area, you come to the national level where the Senate has summoned former boss of NNPCL. And guess what? They said that they look at the NNPCL audited accounts and they found out that the NNPCL spent 50 billion naira to change the name of the company from NNPC to NNPCL. And that made me to wonder whether we can just call Nigeria a crime scene. And that should be the best description. Then if you go to Kano State, you see that that political division we saw between the governor of the state and the deputy is now widening because the House of Assembly has initiated impeachment proceedings against the deputy governor. So that tells you that once the governor is in a different party and deputy is on a different party, of course it becomes gross misconduct in the evaluation of the well-thinking lawmakers in Nigeria. So quite interesting stories, of course. By the time we begin to look at the papers, we will see some other things that might interest you And also the development about Electoral Act, which was amended in this 2026. We have seen IPAC threatening that some parties might boycott 2027 general election because there are some contentious issues in the Electoral Act, which was amended and signed into law by Mr. President. And I'm asking, at this point in time, can anything be salvaged? Because IPAC is asking that the National Assembly should go back to the law and re-amend. So between now and the election time, can that happen? Because INEC is already working based on the 2026 Electoral Act signed by Mr. President just a few weeks ago. So I don't know how we are going to manage this, but of course I know that this very law or this very Electoral Act is going to present some challenges some parties because the amendment came late than it's supposed to have come.
All right, then we are not alone in the studio. Dr. Tony Olisambeki is here to make sense of all of these happenings on the analysis desk. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning to you, Chisom Trinidad. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, the good people of Southeast. Good morning, in the Anambra. Good morning, in the Onitsha, Donitu. Good morning, in the Sumo. Good morning, in the Afia, in the Oloyibo, in the Oluaka. They provide the essential services, the security agents, even the health workers, and those who have been doing great. And we also acknowledge the electricity distribution companies. Of course, many Nigerians have been really passing through a lot as a result of lackadaisical, languid, and languorous service. Many of them have got over a few, would I say, months or weeks. It's really, really disturbing and troubling. You're welcome, everyone. We thank God Almighty for a beautiful day. Thank God it's Friday today, being the 7th day in the month of February, in the month of March, in the year 2026. We thank God for His benevolence, and we've been seeing a lot going on in the polity from different states across Nigeria, even beyond Nigeria. What is going on in Iran, and as well Gulf nations. We've been following different developments. We have also been following the political party activities, the timeline given to them to ensure they digitize their membership register and ensure that is handy before their primaries, and many issues we have also seen so far. You're welcome. Just sit back and enjoy the program. We've got so many to tell you this morning.
All right, then we're going to start by telling you what the front pages of the papers say, and right on from there, we're going to move into the analysis proper. On our table today, the Nigerian Tribune, Vanguard, The Punch, and The Guardian are present. On the Nigerian Tribune, gunmen wreak havoc in Ondo, Oyo, Kebbi. On page 12, the riders here disguised as vigilante men to kidnap 4 on Kishi Igbeti Road, abduct wife, shoot husband in Ondo, kill 2 police officers in Kebbi after attack on border post. We have rescued Igbeti kidnapped victims, or your government source has that to say. Google introduces Yoruba Hausa support for AI search in Nigeria. On page 4, SANU issues fresh threat over delay renegotiation February salaries on page 4. Senator Dixon dumps PDP, joins NDC on page 21. And Tinubu resolves LPL 245 dispute with ENI 15 years after and blocks 150,000 barrels per day of crude. That's on page 6. Our substantive drug case against Abba Kyari still on course. That's the NDLEA. On page 3, reports emerged yesterday of a court acquitting him of non-declaration of assets case. Senate summons Kyari, ex and MPCL officials over 210 trillion naira alleged discrepancies. On page 4, PIA, Nigeria upstream producers have failed to supply crude to refinery. Dangote is speaking on page 5. And on page 3, Tinubu governors all the eminent Nigerians to grace the Bafemi Awolowo Foundation 2026 Memorial Lecture today.
Okay, so let's look at the headlines we have on on Vanguard. Vanguard has the big story here that says Nasarawa Kogi, Benue in grip of terror. Residents review routes, transit camps. That story is on page 14. It has a couple of riders. I'll just take a few of them. How border communities, forest corridors feel attacks. Nasarawa border communities, major transit point for terrorists heading to Benue. and a farmer is saying so. Then another headline we have here says, amend the Electoral Act or we will boycott 2027 elections. IPAC is saying so. And one of the issues they are contending against is the issue of the expunge of indirect primaries in the mode of primary election in the country. IPAC is saying that that is a prerogative of the political parties. So the House of Assembly, or rather, the National Assembly should restore that in the Electoral Act. There are other things they're also raising concern about, like the one that requires that any member of political party should upload their NIN as a sign of being a bona fide member of a political party, and many other things they have raised concern about. Senate summons Mele Kyari, Ajia, others over unaccounted 210 trillion naira. That story is on page 8. Humongous amount of money. Middle East war spreads as Trump says he must okay Iran's next supreme leader. The story can be found on page 8 too. Just like Tony said last time, that what Trump is after is to effect a regime change in Iran. Then another story says power crisis worsens as generation drops 11% to 2,898 megawatts. The story is on page 9. Then it has a rider. NISO blames poor gas supply. Please, can you permit me to run at this point in time? Because I don't know. I was asking somebody this very morning last time we had power supply at the office here, and he said for the past 5 days we have not even had a flash. And this is the situation in so many other places where power supply has become a luxury that you don't even, for like 72 hours, you haven't even seen a flash. But what baffles me is that I've gone to the Facebook page of EEDC and First Power to see if they had tried to offer any kind of explanation. None. And I'm asking our friend the makers, what is happening? Our friend Izuoka for First Power, what is happening? Because in this kind of situation, we're supposed to have seen explanation on how, on why we're having this blackout, I will call it, because where I reside, for the past 3 days, we have not had a flash of supply.
What's even worse is the fact that it has continued. I mean, when we have grid failures or grid collapses, we know what is happening and we know how long it is expected to last for. But what is happening right now, we don't know what it is and we don't know how long we're supposed to be going through this. And, you know, worst off is the fact that fuel price has increased. This morning I bought for $9.50 from $8.40 the last time I fueled. And so Nigerians are really groaning at the moment, and the least distribution companies can do is to at least tell us why they cannot help us.
Okay, so if you now go through the story, you now see where NSIO is trying to explain that for some time now there has been drop in gas supply, so it's affecting thermal production of power. According to them, the supply is about 45% now, and that's why we have seen drop in power generation. Then let's see, other story here says Kano Assembly begins impeachment proceedings against Deputy Governor. The story can be found on page 9. Nigeria is poor because we celebrate looters. P2B on page 9. Let me even ask, I don't know, yesterday that Seraki Dixon defected to the NDC, I saw P2B, you know, his name coming up in different conversations, and people were suggesting that perhaps if anything happens in ADC, NDC might be an option for him. I don't know.
The conversation is even recent.
I don't know if it's just a speculation, because that party was just registered recently. If it's just a speculation, or people we are talking based on information they got on good background. Tinubu prioritizes 2027 over governance, says ADC. Stories on page 9. And with that, we end the headlines on the front page of Vanguard.
All right, then let's go to the Punch. The banner headline here is US-Iran war. Marketers Dangote trade words over petrol price on page 2. Imported petrol cheaper than Dangote's by 64 naira to a litre. That's what marketers are saying. Defy Middle East war to import petrol. Dangote challenges marketers. Ocean governors or governorship campaigns begin March 11 as INEC finalizes candidates on page 28. And isn't that a state where we understand that some parties, including the LP, would not be having removing any candidate over irregularities that have to do with the primaries, and also INEC not having the names of their candidates listed. Let's see how that eventually pans out. Now, DIG in bar others retire 7 AIGs for promotion on page 7, and pension funds hit 28 trillion naira as contributors exceed 11 million on page 24. Borno, 100 still missing after Boko Haram attack on page 2. Senate summons ex-NNPC boss Kiari over 210 trillion naira audit queries. Find that story on page 7 of the Punch newspaper.
Okay, if you go to The Guardian, you also see that story about Senate summoning former NNPC general manager is also there. That's a big story this very morning. It says Senate summons NNPC former bosses over unaccounted 210 trillion naira. This is based on auditor's report, so there is validity in the claims. It's not speculation, because when an auditor releases auditor report, that tells you there are facts in those things. Dangote refinery assures local supply amid global crisis disruption. Stories on page 8. Disco's rationed 2,830 megawatts as gas shortage cuts power supply. Page 3. The big story on pages 4 and 5 says old age distress, how weak safety net makes senior citizens street beggars destitute. That's the big story there. FG begins nationwide crackdown on irregular migrants. Then this one says ABGA APC others spent 19.6 billion in 2025 Anambra Gubernatorial election. That story is on page 29. And I must say that the figure here is a conservative figure. I'm speaking from the point of knowledge because I was involved in this collection of data as one of the media monitors for this very Kimpart development initiative, where we use an app, to track expenditures, record expenditures, and what have you not. And when the team was being gathered, the data, there were some underestimation, there were some under-reportage, but 19.6 billion, tells you how much parties expended in the last election we had in Anambra State. A drug case against Abakiari on course. NDLEA clarified. The story is on page 31. I think this story is also needs some kind of a highlight, because I've seen that some people are trying to misunderstand what actually played out yesterday. So the story is not saying that Abakiari is now free from the charges of corruption leveled against him by NDLEA. Rather, what the court did was to acquit him on the charges bordering on property, properties and assets that he failed to declare. The court said that NDLEA they couldn't bring any kind of proof to show that he underdeclared. Then another story here says Stella Odua seeks plea bargain deal over 2.5 billion naira fraud. The story is on page 29. So she wants to go the way of her walk. Okay. 2027 IPAC threatens boycott as Afenifere backs Southern presidency on page 6. Credit to government spikes by 37% as private sector lending stalls. That story is on page 16 of the Guardian newspaper. And with that, we say thank you for following us on the headlines review.
All right, then we're going to be going over to the conversation proper now. But before we start off, remember we are live on Facebook. Our handle is Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Drop your comment right under the post related to the show. And do not forget to share and, of course, like and follow. So we are starting with one of the biggest issues in Nigeria today, which is the NNPCL and the 210 trillion naira. Now listen to that figure. We are not saying 210 billion, 210 trillion naira. That is what is in contention as we speak. Now, according to reports, there have been 19 audit reports, and the Senate has not been able to give any proper accountability since all of these broke. the Nigeria Senate summoned the former leadership of the NNPCL, including the ex-group CEO Mele Kyari, to come explain all of these figures. When you go through the breakdown of what we have here, according to some reports, we understand that it is divided into two. One mentions 103 billion, if I am not mistaken. Yes, 103 billion naira. And then that's of the 103 trillion naira of the 210 trillion naira. That's for accrued expenses. It appeared in the company's 2022 audited financial statement as expenses for retention fees, legal fees, audit fees. However, auditors noted no detailed breakdown for these costs. The NNPCL also claimed the figure represented joint venture cash call spending by partners, but lawmakers rejected this explanation because the cash call regime was abolished in 2016. And then the second is 107 trillion naira, and this one has been captioned sundry receivables. This was listed as being owed to it by defunct banks and other entities. But investigators say NNPCL did not identify the institutions responsible for the said debt, raising transparency concerns. Now, other financial concerns have been raised. The Senate committee also flagged several additional issues. We have issues of duplicate fuel subsidy deductions. About 3.8 trillion naira may have been deducted twice in subsidy accounts. There are also questionable production costs, reporting about 5 trillion naira as direct production costs between 2017 and 2021, even though the company does not directly produce crude oil. There is also 5.9 billion naira reportedly spent on the transition from NMPC to NMPCL. That's what they call a branding cost, which came up after the Petroleum Industry Act. Lawmakers have described this as quite excessive. Now, what's even more thrilling is the fact that this is not going to be the first time this NNPCL, as it is now, or the NNPC defunct, will be embroiled in issues like this. There was a $20 billion missing oil money of 2013 and 2014. The fuel subsidy scandal of 2011 and 2012 has not been forgotten. The crude oil swap deal controversy of 2015 is still there in the offing. The NNPC subsidy deductions without approval of 2017-2018 is still there. And we have so many oil revenue remittance disputes multiple years across Nigeria's oil sector regime. Unfortunately, all of these answers we hope that someday we get. But before we proceed, before Tony comes up, we have what I call it a bit, an audio bit of what actually transpired on the floor of the House.
On NNPC, in this day and age, who will comprehend such a figure to be expended just to change name of NNPC incorporation from NNPC to NNPCL, 5 billion naira. NNPC should refund the sum of 210 trillion, being the combined sum of 103 trillion and 107 trillion, which were not properly explained to the committee, as the aggregate sum cannot be netted off in tandem with accounting principles. Mele Kyari as the group managing director, Umar Ajia as the chief financial officer, and Bala Wunti as the then GGM Nappings should and must appear before the committee and to be laid by the present management with the entire body of the external auditors that served within the period under review that put together this. NNPC paid 2.9 billion for incorporation expenses from petroleum product proceeds, while Nappings charged 2.9 billion as well against crude oil revenue for the same purpose. This resulted in a combined total amount of 5.9 billion being expended for incorporation by NNPCL just to change the name from NNPC to NNPCL.
And so, Tony, you heard the figures. Hey, God. At this point, in the words of Franklin, Nigeria is a crime scene. There is no better way to define this. How do you make it make sense that a group of people managed to sit in the face of over 230 million people and tell them that to change the name of NMPC to NMPCL, they spent 5.9 billion, Tony. 5.9 billion in the way they say it on social media. As how now? Tony, how? Make it make sense, please.
Well, Nigerians are just saying a little drama about NNPC Limited. They have not seen anything. They haven't seen anything. More will be coming. Nigeria is up for grab. It's gone, as we usually say in local parlance. We've known very well that this is a country where corruption is priceless. Priceless in the sense that what everybody dreams to get involved, not because it is dangerous or it is inhuman, just because you will not become anything if you do not put your hands into some of these things. We are talking about NNPC Limited. But the truth is, the Senate is just waking up. One would have asked this question, where were they when some of these things happened? It took time, it took years. We are looking at NNPC Limited records from 2017 to 2023, about 6 years. And we have seen it that operated within that period. If you even go by the provisions of the New Petroleum Industry Act Section 62, which provides for annual audit of NNPC Limited, and that the board must ensure proper books, appoint external auditors, and publish audited financial statements, one would ask, when they don't do these things, who should hold them responsible? The National Assembly, the agencies that investigate and prosecute corruptions, do they do these things? The answer is no. Nobody should disturb us. Nobody should worry us. We know why this thing is coming at this point in time. But let's look at the figures, even when we know very well that NNPC is not to be solely blamed. Because if an agency empowered by the law to conduct oversight fails, probably they were settled when these things were going on. There were different Senate or National Assembly or House of Representatives. They would say who were there, settled them appropriately, and they kept quiet. And those who came thereafter felt that they were not given anything, as if that if the present Senate is settled, as if they would still continue to make such statements. But outside that, let's look at the figures. We are looking at NNPC book, not just the Senate, all of us. We are looking at their books from 2017 to 2023. We are the books, according to what the Senate is telling us, that they discovered roughly about 103 trillion in unexplained accrued expenses. The expenses they stated that they made about 103 trillion, not billion, my dear, trillion. That is quite unexplainable. And also about 107 trillion in sundry receivables that were never properly accounted for. What they received from their services at different level, both midstream, upstream, downstream, other services they rendered, the receivables, the inflows accounted for 107 trillion in sundry receivables. Outside major ones were never properly accounted for. If you put 103 trillion and 107 trillion naira, if you put them together, that's about 210 trillion naira we are talking about. And if you look at that, 210 trillion is roughly 7 times Nigeria's entire 2026 budget. The budget for 2026, the money we are talking about, is about 7 times of such budget. And if you also go deep from what we heard the senator who was making remarks, the audio we listened to, he was talking about the issue of 5.9 billion spent on rebranding, changing from NNPC, Nigerian National Petroleum Commission, to the limited part of it. That is the rebranding. These are some of the issues. But if you look around, just like I said earlier on, these things took years. From 2017 to 2023, it's about 6 years. There were those who were mandated by the offices they occupied to do the needful. They did not do anything. Maybe they tried doing something, but they were settled and they shut up their mouths and they couldn't go further. My concern is, if you look at the period in view, Maikanti Kashala Baru was the group managing director from July 2016 to 2019. So his administration cut into the period under review, because the period under review is from 2017 down to 2023. Maikanti Baru's regime is also affected. Mele Kolokiare came in sometime around 8 July 2019. That was when he became Group Chief Executive Officer of the new NNPC Limited after commercialization. And he remained in that very post through the entire remaining period from 2019 to 2023 in view, until April 2025, when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu relieved him of that very appointment and also appointed the incumbent Group Managing Director. 210 trillion discrepancies because of bulk of the problematic accounts, especially post-2019 subsidy transition and also PIA era. These fall under the watch, because we know very well that issue of subsidy, Nigerians have seen how issue of subsidy was handled. My concern is, if you dig deep, there were those who were supposed to do one thing where they were settled or they were bribed and they kept quiet. And one is saying 5.9 billion for rebranding. We've seen things like this. The Senate that is making these allegations, even when we believe that it's true. If you open their own books, it will be like that of NNPC. Nobody is saint. Nobody is immune. Everybody is innocent. Just as if you have what it takes, expose the next person. Expose the next person. The amount is very, very staggering. You cannot see this in most sane countries. You cannot see this. I've said here many times that our own democracy is democracy of unaccountability, is democracy of do as you want, do as you like, shop as you want. That's kind of democracy. Nobody accounts for anybody, anything. Anybody who has opportunity to become anything in this country goes on and do whatever he likes. Just look at the amount we're talking about, 7 times the 2026 budget. And for us here, we'll keep watching, we'll keep talking, even journalists, because I expect, apart from the Senate, we have different types of journalism. What happens to our investigative journalism, exposing these books, exposing scandals? We must give it to a particular newspaper that has done marvelously well, even when government doesn't want to hear their names. But we must give it to that very particular newspaper. You know, the very paper I'm talking about is the online paper anyway. But it's really, really disturbing based on what we are hearing. If you look at what the Senate committee is doing, they have summoned former Group Managing Director Mele Kiare, ex-CFO Oma Ajisa Isa, ex-NAMSA boss Bala Wunti. You heard the names when they were. But nobody talked about also Maikanti Baru. Why didn't they also invite him? Because the period under review, I think significant fractions fall under his own regime. Why are they not inviting him? There are so many unexplainable money that was either misappropriated. These things, when we are talking about this Mele Kiare, I said it earlier on, that man oversaw the transition period to subsidy era. At a point, they told us that they are doing it under recovery. At a point, during fact, they said that there is nothing to remit. A lot happened. And look at electricity. We cannot boost of electricity, a country that has large size mineral deposits, especially in the area of oil and gas. Yet the country is in darkness. Opacity of certain things is really a problem here.
So, Tony, I wanted to talk from the point of the auditor's report, we know that in the government circles, in the government business, at the end of every financial year, government expenditure is audited, and the auditor general of the state or the federation, issues audit report. And if you look at this very report every year, you will see lapses. You see where maybe monies were not retired. You see where some monies were not accounted for. And what we normally see is that the legislature at the federal level talk about National Assembly. At the state level, we talk about State Assembly. What they normally do is that they take the auditor's report, then invite the agencies, parastatals, departments, MDAs that have audit issues, for them to come and explain why it is the way it is, and that is where it ends. But in the real sense of it, if we live in a country whereby transparency and accountability are the watchword, auditors' report is supposed to be the cross upon which we can crucify government officials who fail to account for the expenditures they have run. Is there anything we can do to this auditor's report so that it can become an instrument that can be used to fight corruption?
We are not even serious with auditor's report, just like we said earlier on, because I know audits repeatedly flag massive discrepancies, just as what we are saying: unexplained accruals, unrecovered joint venture debts, subsidy receivables that were never paid, questionable contractors, payments. The same NNPC management stays in post for years, because most times when these audits are done, they submit to NNPC management. I don't know if they submit to the Senate, or we've seen weak internal controls, political interference, and elite impunity. And we've seen this from time to time. Even pre-Petroleum Industry Act, NNPC operated with almost zero commercial transparency. NNPC at a point was both regulator, operator, and also his own auditor, even after PIA. The transition was messy. The whole thing is that we've seen what we are saying, just like I said earlier on. People have not seen anything. You people have not seen anything. If you arrest and prosecute Mele Kyari, you will notice that there are many House of Rep members or even senators that he related with, or possibly he may have done one thing or the other, giving them their own shares. If you dig deep, he's not just only one who is on fire. If you dig deep, there are so many of them that would want this probe to end. They would want this probe not to go on. They would want this probe not to continue. Remember the issue of the House of Rep member who was released recently by the Correctional Service in Nigeria, Ahmad Lawan. You remember him? Lawan. His own case, he was actually probing. He was one of the House of Representatives committee member. In fact, he was even the chairman of the committee. But we saw how he got himself emerged in the whole corruption. They say it's corruption. As we have it here, you have not seen anything. This is just the beginning. You are just putting the book from 2017 to 2023. What about those books before the period? Nigerians are really passing through hell. God has blessed this country. Naturally, what this country has can make everybody to live happily. Live happily with the infrastructural deficit we talked about, well attended to. This money keep going into private pockets. People are suffering. No infrastructures, facilities in the area of healthcare, education, poverty-stricken Nigerians are gnashing their teeth. It is big irony with all the blessings. Look at this man. Are we not talking about the one Dangote exposed, the chairperson of the midstream petroleum industry, the one Mr. President also removed from his appointment, where Dangote personally petitioned this man at the ICPC? Who is talking about the petition again? The man where Dangote was able to access certain data regarding the expenses, where his children were schooling, and so many things. We are running this country in a dark mode. That's what we call dark mode. Dark mode where nobody is accountable to anybody.
So Tony, let's look at this supposed dark mode. We are looking at 2017 to 2023, if I am not mistaken. That's the year that these misappropriations reportedly recorded. That's a space of 6 years. And I am curious to find out, why would it take 6 years before a proper audit of a company like NNPCL is done? I mean, we are talking about the major source of the country's revenue being crude, and we are having NNPCL's account audited after 6 years. Make it make sense, because there is a kind of what I call it lacuna you would let exist. Then things like this invariably would keep happening. Let's not even forget the fact that a lot has happened in the past. Lack of accountability coming from the past. So these people must have seen a system that doesn't really hold anybody accountable. And so it continued. Why was this lacuna there in the first place?
Well, you would have said there was never an audit, but what was the audit used for? Just like I said that even the auditors were raising red flags of unexplained accruals, receivables, but nobody listened to them. I have said it many times, nobody listened to them. They really rolled out quite a lot.
Who is supposed to listen to them? Whose responsibility
You
is
have
it to
got the
listen to them?
Senate. You've got the ministry of under which the NNPC Limited is under. We've got these people. The truth remains that when these things are going on, like I've always explained, they have a way of settling those that would have given them some questions or queries as to why these things were the way they were. They have a way of settling them, and they will keep quiet. Why this is happening is because those that they settled at that time, they may not be in power again. There may be some of them who are still at the Senate, but they wouldn't want this to continue. They would want to frustrate this.
Okay, so Tony, in 2024, thereabout, I did a program for Paradigm Leadership Support Group, based in Abuja and Lagos. In fact, they came to Anambra to do transparency and accountability issue, and they focus on audit report in Anambra State. And I think 2023 and 2024, they were in focus, and we did a series on the audit issues raised in different departments, different agencies, and we're asking questions, why has nothing been done on this? Now, during that very time, I discovered that audit is just done as a routine in Nigeria, that after every fiscal year of the government, there's supposed to be audit. It's done as a routine, and it's not done as a window. Most times, like now we are in 2025, by the time you get to see the audit report of 2025, it could be in 2027. Sorry, now we are in 2026. By the time you get to see the audit report of 2026, it could be in 2028. It takes them time to do all these things. And by the time
Why does it take that much time?
Yes, I understand that it's a voluminous work. For you to go through the papers of different parastatus agencies, not be every day's work. But for the fact that we have not given that very audit report the attention it is supposed to receive, there is this very lackadaisical attitude on the part of those who are supposed to do this. So because they believe that anytime it comes out, they can take it. After all, nobody uses that for anything meaningful, apart from the fact that the house is going to sit, like if it's at the state level, the state house assembly is going to sit and invite some of the persons who have audit issues, ask them one or two questions, and in some cases they ask them to refund, and everything dies that very way. That is why I have this very concern that what they are now doing at Senate can just be a major jamboree. It's good that they have raised this very thing. We have known that there are audit issues, but to talk about anything coming out of this is most likely to end like the things we have done in the past, unless if this cannot become a wake-up call for the EFCC to relaunch their probe into the actions of Mele Kyari. Don't forget that in 2025, that the EFCC invited Mele Kyari to the office to answer some questions over some alleged misappropriation. So I don't know whether this is going to spur them into action again to begin to probe deeper to find out what happened under his watch, or, as usual, I said, it will still end like others had ended in the past, because in Nigeria, we have this culture of raising the issues, running on the frenzy, and after like a month, we go back to default setting and live as if nothing had ever happened.
Well, for me, I have always said that if there is no punishment for corruption, it would go on. Tell me the difference between somebody who may have held such position and things like this were discovered, unexplained, accused. What is the difference between the person and a kidnapper? What is the difference between the person and an armed robber? One is office robber, and the other one is road robber. They are still robbers. The truth is, if these people were to be in China by now, they will be facing, upon conviction, execution. But you have to try them first and ensure that they are convicted. We must begin to fight corruption. We are not fighting corruption in this country. I've said it many times. What we are doing is we are using what somebody like Chiu Sani called, was it Chetos, or I don't know what the way he said it. We are using some of these things, insecticide. For me, we are not serious. Corruption should be something, if we legislate properly, anybody convicted of stealing billions, pure execution, millions, life imprisonment. If we set out this rule,
And trillions
will be where, in fact, you will be burnt to ashes. I don't know how we're gonna do that, but even it's not part of our culture.
We know that is far from possible.
No, but you know it's not part of our culture. But
I mean, the word is even abolishing
from
capital
billion
punishment.
to, there are places you cannot abolish it. Places where corruption is.
Does China still do that?
Of course they do. It's still ongoing in China. There are countries that some of these things are. People that say that they will not allow capital punishment, the EU countries, for some reasons, and for you to join them, if you are a member of European community, for you to join them, they will tell you that you have to repeal your laws to ensure that you remove the capital punishments in some part of your laws. That's for just, they have killed corruption long time ago. They have built a strong institutions that monitor activities, especially in public spaces. They have built that. Based on the works they have done, they don't need capital punishment again. They have done so much work.
Right.
Extensively, but we have not done anything.
Quickly.
Why is nobody pushing for an audit law whereby we can now begin to have punishment for audit issues that are not accounted for? I'll give you an instance, because in Anambra has passed anti-corruption law. That anti-corruption law, I know how we work for it, even going to meet different institutions of the government, meet different agencies of the government. And luckily, EU brought money, gave money to ROLAC, and ROLAC was able to spearhead this very movement. I can't forget the last meeting we had with the Commissioner for Justice, Professor Sylvia Ifemeje, in her office, because we came to ask her the level of effort to make legislation for Anambra State when it comes to anti-corruption. And that time she told us that they were working. But guess what? We had some skepticism that government was working. But guess what? That law has been enacted at state level, so that can now give the state the teeth to bite when it comes to fighting corruption. So these audit issues, we keep having audit issues every year. So why is nobody pushing for an audit law that can make it very criminal? Once you have an audit issue that cannot be explained, you'll be able to go in for it.
Well, the senators, the National Assembly, if you ask me, these are the kind of laws they should be making. These are kind of laws they should be making, not the one that will make them to remain in power in perpetuity. There are so many good laws we have not had, and there are even the ones we have that we have not also implemented. It takes a strong institutions to implement laws. They should make laws that will make institutions to be strong. Institutions become strong first and foremost by the legislative framework of these institutions. When you are building a strong institution, the very first step you take is legislative framework. To make these institutions to be insulated in such a way that nobody can, in a way, manipulate, maneuver, bend them not to keep to their core mandate. That we have not seen. And I've said many times, there are some institutions you have to build in such a way for, at least if not for anything, for national security. These institutions have powers to invite even members of the present cabinet, especially when there is any need, without even writing to the president. You cannot do it now. If you have any cabinet member who has a corruption case, the institution will first maybe relate to Mr. President, or Nigerians most times will try to call the person out, Mr. President, then suspends the person or sack the person, as we are told that somebody was relieved of his appointment. The truth remains that we must build institutions. If institutions must operate independently, not looking at any organ of government before they do their work. It's important until we begin to do this. And people that we put into these institutions, the kind of people they are, where they are from, and what they would likely face if they abuse office. Nobody's talking about these things. We are not serious in fighting corruption. We know what to do, and we are not doing some of these things.
All right, then we keep our fingers crossed to see what eventually becomes of this summon the Senate has made for Kyari and the people that Kyari worked with. Fingers crossed, we'll keep you updated when any of these developments eventually progress. Keep it locked to Polity on Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Let's attend to some commercials. We'll be right back to focus on insecurity now. It's really concerning that insecurity is expanding into previously stable regions like in the southwest. Quite shocking that Ondo State has also become a hotbed and the forests in that state become a safe haven for these elements. Keep it locked. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
Correct gist our people. Udala Radio get better news for now. We don't join hand with one serious mobile gaming company and we carry something big come for Onitsha people. You get phone abi? You like game? You want play with millions of players from different countries, or you just one day play and they win? Then this one now for you. Make you come join our gaming community now. You fit stand chance to make name for yourself as you dey play and dey earn. The better you sabi the game, the bigger your reward. If you dey interested, no do yourself or just send text message with your phone number, your full name, your email address. Send them go 0803-350-4206 to register. No miss the opportunity. Now better chance to join something wey go sweet and reward you well. All you need now just your phone. You fit there anywhere. They play, they earn reward. Send your details now to 0803-350-4206. I go talk am again. 0803-350-4206. Make we start you up today. Udala Radio. We dey always bring una the correct best. Onitsha ndị nwe ahịa, nke a bụ ụzọ anyị si asị unu daalụ maka ọmarịcha otu afọ nke nzikọrịta ozi. Udala Radio dị otu afọ n'ọnwa Maachị a. N'ọnwa Maachị a niile, Udala nwere onyinye pụrụ iche maka ịgba afọ ọhụrụ a. Ịzụta advert slot abụọ, inwe otu mgbakwunye onyinye n'efu. Ịnụrụ nke ọma, ohere nke mgbasa ozi ahịa, ozi ọbụla maọbụ nke program ekwu ụgwọ, nweta ohere abụọ, anyị agbakwunyere gị otu. Nke a bụ ohere ị nwere ime ka ndị Onitsha n'obodo ndị ọzọ nụ ma mara maka ahịa gị. Gbata ọsọ ozugbo n'ihi ohere ọ pụrụ iche a malitere ugbu a ma bụrụ nke ga-abịa n'isi njedebe n'ụbọchị nke 31 n'ọnwa Maachị nke afọ a, n'ọnwa mgbakwunye afọ Udala. Maka ndebanye na ajụjụ, kpọọ anyị na 0803-350-4206 maọbụ bịa n'ụlọ ọrụ anyị dị n'Onitsha na nọmba 5 Okono Street n'okirikiri DMGS Roundabout. Ya bụ inwe ike ịkpọ anyị na 0803-350-4206 maọbụ bịa n'ụlọ ọrụ anyị na nọmba 5 Okono Street n'okirikiri DMGS Roundabout Onitsha. Udala Radio emeela otu afọ n'ọnwa Maachị a, ọkpọkọpi n'ezie.
You're listening to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
of course, sometimes the conversation off the microphone is actually the most exciting part of what we do here. But, Frank, EEGC and First Power, they are getting on everybody's nerves. You have something to say to them?
Well, like I said, the two companies have in recent times shown me what I can call the height of irresponsibility. Why am I saying this? To some extent, I worked closely with EEDC. I know when I was handling a program for them for more than 3 years. I know how they were dutiful in terms of trying to communicate with the people when issues arise, so that at least you get to understand what is happening. It wasn't that they weren't solving the problem, but at least you have a communication that this is what is happening.
You know what you're up against.
Of course. But ever since they began to create subsidiary companies where they now have First Power in Anambra State, Islam Power in Ebonyi State, they have I think New Era in Abia, Transpower in Imo State, and what have you not. I have seen gaps in the way they communicate. I can recall there was one incident that happened when many places in Anambra State went out of supply for like 3 days. There was no communication. At the point in time, I had to hound our dear friend Emeka Eze. That was when he now issued a statement and sent to us privately, okay, that was the true state of things regarding power. Now, since December last year, there has been a turnaround in power situation in the southeast. I can't speak about other parts of the country, but the one I'm very sure about. Now, if I'm going to narrow down to Onitsha and Oka, the ones I can conveniently give you facts and evidences regarding power supply. Now, I used to tell people that where I was residing before at Oka, that none of us bothered to go and buy generator because of how constant we used to have power there. At least you are guaranteed of power supply 20 hours in a day. We are paying high, but we're enjoying it. But since last year, everything took a turn. Now, if you talk to Mr. A in Oka, he complains. Mr. B in Onitsha, he complains. Anywhere you talk about, people who are living in federal housing that used to enjoy power supply, they are crying foul. People who live at Odumele out, back of Army Barracks, who used to enjoy power supply constantly, they now complain that you can go 3 days without any power supply, and nobody's talking. Now, if you ask EDC, if you go to their page to even ask questions, nobody responds. Now, yes, Izuo Kafo was on our radio. That was 2 days ago on Market Square. At least we're trying to get information about what is happening. I was even expecting that after that very engagement with him, they will be able to put out a statement to explain what the issues are, if it's coming from their own side, or coming from the Gencos, or coming from the transmission company, and nobody's talking. I think it was this very morning that I was just going through some things, and I saw the statement that came from NISO, trying to explain that why we are having downtime in supplies because there's gas shortage, that they are not getting enough gas to be able to power the thermal stations. Of course, we know that in Nigeria we have a hybrid, thermal and the hydro. I mean, we generate power from water and at the same time using gas. But the bulk of the power supply we have in the country, the generation comes from gas. And now they are saying they have shortage in gas. Of course, we know that for a long time there has been this issue of indebtedness to gas company by the federal government. Sometimes it was said to be 6 trillion. Sometimes it was said to be 3 trillion. And last time I checked, I think the federal government was able to do some audit and they came to 3 trillion. But nobody has been able to offset this very indebtedness. Perhaps that's why the gas companies cannot supply enough gas for these thermal stations to power the thermal stations. But we are going in on EDC and First Power is what happens to communication, what happens to engagement. Then for the fact that we are now suffering this, those who are on estimation, what becomes of their fate? Those who are on band A, on the understanding that they are on band A because they enjoy power supply 20 hours a day. Now they don't even have 1 hour a day. So what becomes of that blame system? So you now see that is an exploitation. And we are suffering the mistake of the past government, because past government did their privatization and gave it to these schools who have no capacity to invest, who have no capacity to do anything. And what we are doing is that every year we're thinking about how do we bail out Gencos, how do we bail out transmission company, how do we bail out discos? And this has kept us perpetually down. Was it not the last time? That should be about a month ago that it came to the fore that the presidency had discovered that it's not going to solve our power problem any moment from now, and he has decided to go solar at Aso Rock. And people are now asking, if Aso Rock has gone solar, what is the fate of Nigerians? And that leads to what happened under the past government of Buhari when we began to see our vice president, what's his name again? I'm trying to remember his name. Oshibajo. When he was going around carrying power bank. So if that becomes the case of those who lead, that tells we do not have any hope. So I don't know what we can do to have a turnaround.
You just reiterated our hopelessness, unfortunately.
Like, well, the issue is, I have always said it many times, many people have used electricity as a campaign tool. We've seen presidents come from time to time. I remember when Buhari was coming to power, likes of Fashola was saying that if we don't give you electricity in 6 months, stun us. At the point, he became the Honorable Minister for Power, Works and Housing, and he denied making that very statement. Even when the video was shown to him, he said it was AI. That was what he said. And
AI
these days,
does a lot.
And these days, when somebody makes a statement, and if you bring video evidence of the statement he made, where he made it, the person will shout, no, I wasn't the one, it was AI. Fashola and Buhari, they spent good 8 years without fixing our power. In fact, we became worse than the way we were. We have about 11,000 or 12,000 megawatts capacity, but supply had always been, I'm talking about past, had always been below 4,000 megawatts, sometimes 2,000, sometimes it goes down as low as 1,000. We have looked at our electricity sector and we've seen that both operational framework and everything surrounding it is not taking they are not taking us anywhere. I discovered when Obasanjo started his own reforms in electricity privatization, where he brought all these mushroom discos, mushroom gencos, and put them in the capital intensive sector. What do you expect? Many of them were given license for a particular sum. There was a day I said some of these things. How much did they buy the license? How much did at that point? They went to the bank, borrowed money from the banks, and bought this license, telling the banks that whatever profit we make, we repay back the loan. They don't even have startup capital for the business. And many of them have not been in the business for any time.
How do you run a business without startup capital?
They were just friends and politicians, They were friends to
and allies.
That was exactly what happened. And in fact, Obasanjo and Atiku, they should be, because Atiku supervised the privatization. The truth remains that it is very, very disturbing. And we are not getting out of this anytime soon. I remember Mr. President saying that if I don't give electricity in 4 years, don't vote me again. And when that video was shown to, I think, Red Omokori, he said, I'm not sure Mr. President said that. Okay. The video is everywhere. The truth is, we are just moving in a vicious circle. We are not having any headway. We are not making any progress as far as electricity is concerned in this country.
Sadly so. Let's move on to on from that matter, Tony. We understand that there's a lot of insecurity going on in different parts of the country that out there before now were comparatively safe. And so we understand that the Southwest, Oyo and Ondo states are presently being affected. There are kidnappings along highway, forest bandits camps have been located or sighted. There are also attacks on rural communities. And then you go up to Benue, Nasarawa and Kogi State, where farmer-herder clashes still exist. Banditry is still a thing. Communal conflicts and kidnapping still hold sway. And then you come to Kebbi State, where we have cross-border bandit movements, smuggling networks, and rural kidnapping plaguing that state. And now the question is, these are stuff that we have seen in the news for quite some time now. Why is it spreading, especially now into places that were before now considered safe? And also, what exactly is happening with our security outfits? Is this a coordination failure, or what exactly do you term this continued reactionary approach to security, despite all the moves that have been made by this administration to cover reshuffling of security architecture and all of that? And also the state policing system that we have been clamoring for. Are we nearer to it now? And do you see the change we desire coming with it?
I'll stop talking about anything insecurity until we have state police. Probably that's what I'm going to do. I do not buy the idea of us repeating ourselves from time to time. What are we going to say new as far as insecurity is concerned? What have we not said? Do we just come back from time to time to say and spill some of the things we are saying?
Unfortunately, these things are still happening from time to time.
Insanity. We have not done anything. Most of the proposal, most of the recommendations we've made, none has been acted upon. None, as we speak. So why should I look at the insecurity? Nigerians are defenseless. Of course, they cannot do anything. Many of them cannot do anything. These villages, they are unpoliced. These armed bandits, they have the field way, and we have a centralized security architecture that they have to get a, what we call it, a signal, and they move hours before they could get. What are you telling me? What about those that ordinarily would have been on ground to show resistance and then even call for some level of cover up or support? See, let's tell ourselves the truth. We don't have policing system in Nigeria. Of course, the ones we have, they are in major cities, they're on highways collecting money. They are just spread around different urban areas, doing what they either way what we employ them. I wouldn't say that they are not doing quite little as far as the urban areas are concerned. If you look at the places we are talking about now, are they not rural areas? We are talking about Kogi, Benue, Ondo, Oyo, and Kebbi. These states we have seen many times, they have dominated security reports. We're going to talk about banditry and mass abductions in these areas. In even Kebbi Forest, we are being told that even the farmer headers and many things happening around these areas. We've talked about state police as one of the ways to go by. And the president talked about it the other day, and then the Inspector General of Police, this to say that he has come to say, and so many things. I will stop talking about insecurity. Nigerians should just take their destinies in their own hands for now, until we have proper structure and architecture to protect lives and property. Just like we are talking about issue of electricity. We know very well that for you to have electricity, because most of our turbines are powered by gas, and Nigeria has large gas deposits. Why can't we use this gas to turn these turbines? And we have seen situations where there are sectorial debts. Many people have invested in some of these things, have not been paid. There are things the government can do to stabilize this problem. We are talking about insecurity, which has been on and on from one administration to the other, and nothing seems to have been done significantly. There's something in the area of electricity. They are all the same. What are we talking about?
All right, Tony. You want to say something?
Yes, because each time we talk about insecurity in Nigeria, of course, most of the times, what we blame is that we have a security system that is centralized. But I want us to look at this from also a more practical point of view, to see whether there is also insincerity of people coming from government at the subnational. Now, I'll have to give an instance with Anambra State. We were all here in Anambra State, where Anambra was almost like a no-go area. Almost on daily basis, you get to hear about, if it's not kidnapping, you hear about killings, you hear about this. At the point, people were on the comment of Anambra State that it was doing nothing. In fact, people were on the case of the governor. People were asking questions: what have you done for the police? What have you done? And government said, give us time. Government took time, enacted a law, and evolved Vigilante Agone Chamber. Now, under the operation called Operation Dogachi, that's a combination of the local security and the federal security, and they began to work together. If we want to be fair to the government, we have recorded an improvement in security in Anambra State. Anybody who wants to be sincere will attest to that. That as we speak, security agencies have been able to make incursion into places that we are hitherto inaccessible. We talked about the Mother Valley here that has, that they've been able to penetrate. They've been able to go in there. We used to call it Sabisa Forest of the Southeast. They've been able to recover the Odimeje's house in his home country, and other things that have happened. There are some communities that hitherto people deserted the communities in Anambra State. People are beginning to return. it's not Uhuru yet, but we have recorded improvement in security. Now, so when we now want to extrapolate this to other states, many of these states where we are having issue of insecurity, okay, some of them is coming from banditry, some of them is coming from terrorism. Yes, if you're going to compare the scale of terrorism and banditry, they're not on the same scale, because terrorists, they will have more firearms than bandits. But a state like Niger, it's been bandit and what have you not. So this very state, have we seen them making so much commitment to see how they can, on their own, use their own ingenuity to create a security solution that can combine with the federal forces to be able to fight the issue they have there?
Well, if you talk about Niger State is very large. Niger State has about 76,363 square kilometer. And I must let you know that if you are to equate Niger State with Anambra State, Niger State is about 15 times the size of Anambra State. If you bring Anambra State 15 times, that's the size of Niger State. And because of the land mass of Niger State, issue of security will always be a problem. Because these bandits, they need space to operate. They need some level of zero resistance to operate. And how many security operatives will you have in Niger State that will populate some of these nooks and crannies? How many federal or centralized security architecture? I'm not saying that the government hasn't done anything, but I'm thinking if they had taken Agune Chamber to Niger State, you must double that figure. You must double their number times 15. That's what it means. And for you to do that, you also look at the figures, but the government of Niger State can do something like that. But the point I'm trying to make is that Anambra State is very small compared to, I'm talking about landmarks. Anambra State, I think if you look at the landmarks of Anambra State, it's in the region of 4,844 square kilometer, which is bigger than Lagos State, because Lagos is the lowest with 3,577 square kilometer. If you talk about Kogi State is about 6 times the size of Anambra State, and it's also one of the states that has dominated security reports. And you understand how big it is. If you talk about Benue State is about 7 times the size of Anambra State. Because if you look at some of the states, they have landmarks. And the truth is, with the size of the states, they need not just the firepower, but the number of men. I have said many times they can also invest in technology. What happens to using drones on armed area, area aircraft, and so many of these things? They can use land sensors. They can use land sensors to detect movement, to detect patterns, and there's so many things they can also invest in security. But just like we have always said, security itself is also a capital intensive project. But if you tell people that you borrow money to invest in security, they will ask what happens to your security funds. And many of them are not even using their security votes wisely. Their security vote, which is their pocket money.
Tony, these things you mentioned, don't they have manpower in that state that can be leveraged? Because for me, I believe in, let's see what you are doing with the little you have. Once you see that what you are doing with the little you have, and you're asking for more. Even the good book said it, but like for those who are Christians, it tells you that one of the parables, Onye in Kenya talent, he buried his own. Onye in Kenya in Kia, or use where more was given to him. So for this very state that always, each time you confront them with issue on security, they tell you it's the federal thing. We don't give orders, we don't do this, we don't do this. But most of these very states, just go to them, they take security votes. They have, some of them have vigilantes, some of them go to Southwest, they have a Amotekun. Amotekun is operating in Southwest, and that region has been able to record some level of sanity, some level, compared to some of these northern states. Yes, we understand the landmass, we understand the forest there, we understand what they have there. But if these people want to be sincere and want to prove that many of them are not aware of what is happening, many of them are not in complicity with what is happening, have they shown that very well that they actually want to root out insecurity? Or is it just always in the media crying that they don't control security architecture?
Well, just like I have always said, the truth remains that there are so many operational challenges many of them may have. I'm not holding brief for them, but they have not done anything that would make somebody to say, give them more. At least you must do something. That's why we've said allow security to be in the hands of state governors, local government chairmen. Let them take issue of security seriously. Give them power. Most of these local government mayors, many of them do nothing. Many of them sleep at the office. Let's give you this mandate and see how you go about with it first. And situations where the ones, because if you have a Motekun, if you have their own local vigilantes, they will be using dengon. They'll be using pump action to fix those who are coming up with multi-purpose machine gun. It makes no sense. Many of them will know that for you to use pump action to face somebody who is using multi-purpose machine gun is more like suicide on its own, unless you have whatever you think you can use to protect yourself. The truth remains that we must measure things properly and put them in proper perspective. Let's empower local government. Let's even empower the towns. The towns, of course, that's the kind of security architecture I've been advocating for. Towns should also have what it takes to ensure they protect itself. Police should also be in the towns where they supervise these things. At least, if these people come in their numbers, they will first and foremost face resistance. There will be call for support from the local government, from the state troopers, whichever. We talked about these things yesterday, and I said I'm not going to talk about anything in security until we start doing the practical things. It's not about coming here to theorize all the time.
Okay. We have to attend to some commercials. Once we come back, we open up the phone lines. Do stay. The Polity on Udala Radio 104.7 FM.
You're listening to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
Correct gist our people. Udala Radio get better news for now. We don't join hand with one serious mobile gaming company and we carry something big come for Onitsha people. You get phone abi? You like game? You want play with millions of players from different countries, or you just one day play and they win? Then this one now for you. Make you come join our gaming community now. You fit stand chance to make name for yourself as you dey play and dey earn. The better you sabi the game, the bigger your reward. If you dey interested, no do yourself or just send text message with your phone number, your full name, your email address. Send them go 0803-350-4206 to register. No miss the opportunity. Now better chance to join something where go sweet and reward you well. All you need now just your phone. You fit there anywhere. They play, they earn reward. Send your details now to 0803-350-4206. I go talk again. 0803-350-4206. Make we start you up today. Udala Radio. We they always bring una the correct best.
Quality bread, Wendy's bread, for your family breakfast. Wendy's bread, I'll pack it and they do yellow. Wendy's bread, mama, papa, they like Wendy's bread, kitchen and good. Wendy's bread, even children, they like Wendy's bread, Wendy's bread, Wendy's bread, get the better tasty, we go sweet your belly. Wendy's bread, Wendy's your body, Wendy's bread, tasty bread. You can contact us on our official address, Second Business Park, Enugu Road, GRA, beside Onitsha, Anambra State. We also have another branch at St. Michael Plaza at Tandy Road. Also contact us on 070-1149-1571. Wendy's bread, your tasty bread. Wendy's bread.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
Now it's your turn to get involved. Put a call across to 0803-221-6973 or 0803-827-6694. You can also drop a comment on Facebook. The handle is Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Now you have 2 minutes to air your views. Be as objective as possible. Turn down the volume on your radio set when your call connects, and please be as objective as possible. The numbers again are 0803-221-6973, 0803-827-6694. Hello there. Good morning. Can you hear me? Good morning. Hello? Hello? Okay, let's try this again. Let's see. Yes, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
It's obvious. I'm Chris anyway. I'm calling from Oba precisely.
Go ahead, Chris. Let's hear you.
The Abakari saga. We remember this few years ago when it was looming around, especially in the Buhari's administration. They were all denying, nothing was swept under the carpet, they were sanitized and whatever. But today, it is still embarrassing and very shameful that the same Abakari has huge debts, all over him, like cobwebs.
Sorry.
And
sorry, please.
people have rightly said,
please hold on. Please hold on. Do you mean Mele Kyari or Abba Kyari? Which one?
Mele Kyari, sorry, we are not talking about Mele Kyari.
I actually thought he's talking about the case with Abba Kyari that even eventually merged.
Right.
Go ahead.
The NFPC board I'm referring to.
All right.
Sorry, it's the Kyari's resemblance, I think. Sorry for that, anyway.
All right, go on, sir.
It's a huge shame. From this, we can understand that the agents in Nigeria, we only bear big names, big administrative names, huge, fanciful names, but administratively, Nigeria is not functional. You are talking about all this. How can an administration be a total administration without all this? There is nothing we do on earth with respect to commercial industry that is not gathered with when it comes to public wealth. When you talk about national wealth, we are operating without all this. Even in this digitalized world of highly sophisticated digital machinery, we are still trying and giving excuses for malpractice, financial malpractice. We cannot be frugal enough. I still need somebody to convince me that Nigeria is indeed a nation. The word administration makes no sense without audit. I don't know what all these big juggernauts are doing. I can't understand. In fact, I find a very big shame as a monstrous carbuncle on the face of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
All right then, thank you for your contribution. You try to be as clear as possible, and of course you have 2 minutes. Be as objective as possible. Yes, good morning.
Hello,
good morning. Good morning.
Thank you, my lady. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good morning.
Yes, I'm quite worried. I heard our analyst comment that there was nothing to talk about on security. I hold an exception to that. Oh, yes. He has a lot to talk about. After he's supposed to be the analyst. And he's supposed to be the best, not supposed to be. Things come up every day. Unfortunately, we are saddled with a government and a people, a governance that thinks that leading all of us, the community, the citizenry, with all sorts of challenges. One of my friends talked about it this morning. They brought in a lot of challenges. It got so much that you don't even know where to start. Because you got a bunch of technocrats, so if you like, that think they know what they're doing. They don't know. They don't know. They started off with all sorts of things. No money. No money. No money. Where has all the money gone to? What happened? Well, whatever it is, on electricity, I know we brought Ginkgo and all the rest. They didn't work. I know it is deliberate. And I know there is a Nigerian who is an expert that can give us the solution. That because we live in denial. This guy says, we listened to him during the electioneering. Do this. And we refuse. We refuse. We live in self-denial. And we come up and say, we couldn't do that. and we couldn't do this. Rather, someone has gone beyond back door to bring us solar. What science do you know about solar, Nigerians? What do we know? Thank you very much. Have yourself a blessed weekend.
Have a blessed weekend too. Let's hear you. 0803-221-6973, 0803-827-6694. We are live on Facebook. Udala Radio 104.7 FM is the handle to drop your comment and find a post or video related to the show. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Chisu, and the others.
Franklin and Choni.
I'm joining you from home.
Go ahead, Chidi.
It's just as if nothing is working in Nigeria. And you see the kind of looting and mismanagement of our resources. Our common inheritance, only few people are taking the whole nation to ransom. And you see the people that are involved. During the analysis, I listed the names that have been mentioned. And you can see that certain people are untouchable. When they commit any offense, it's just as if nothing happened. But if it is involved another people, then you see the kind of reaction, even from the same people that are involved in it. You see how the people will be reactive. You see the meticulousness of the people when it involves a certain group of the people. Why do we have a sacred cow in this nation and the peoples are suffering? See the looting and the mismanagement of our resources, and then nothing is happening. At the end of the whole thing, everything will be swept under the carpet. Good morning.
Good morning to you too. Let's hear you. 0803-221-6973, 0803-827-6694 are the numbers to call to be a part of the show. You can also drop your comment on Facebook. Good morning. Hello, good morning.
Yeah. Good morning, Shikon. Good morning, Mr. See,
Your network is not so good. Hello?
I hear me.
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry, you need to reconnect, okay? Good morning. Are you there? Hello?
Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, all my people in the studio. My name is Mr. Aloy Wazwan.
Go ahead, Aloy, let's hear
I'm
you.
calling from Asaba. You know, the problem we have for insecurity in Nigeria is so bad that some of us that grow from the local village are never able to sleep anymore. But my contribution concern what is of our country is that see that our government fail us not to scare us. We cannot just leave ourselves like that. In the sense that if we are coming from Anambra West, we organize ourselves. Before I was born, I was something years now. Before I was born, our people used to have 8th grade local security. Until when we grow for this level that we have vigilante. But what happened that make us to have excess security in Anambra West? We volunteer ourselves from different families and from different villages and towns that make local government Anambra West. So that you know what will happen to your family, what will happen to your community. And before you become a vigilante, there is adult that you can swear that you cannot harm anybody that comes from Anambra West, or you cannot break shame in anywhere to Anambra West. And since there's not any problem concerning security, even when a Fulani enter our place for something years ago, we fought them, and they cannot remember that the Anambra.
Hello? Hello? Try to reconnect. Good morning.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Mr. Franklin, good morning.
Good morning.
You're welcome.
Anthony Meketa, calling from Onitsha. I want to, on the security matter, matter of concern, I want to hail our governor, Machar Soludo, for the collaborative work
he started just a few days ago on the Mother Valley that was captured a few weeks ago, because I was aware that there was an ongoing operation from also in Tuba 3 weeks ago by the men of JTF and the 34 Atlantic Brigade in an operation named Operation Udoka. So from that also in Tuba, there has been an operation ongoing until the approach that captured the Mother Valley. And I was following the development when there was an alert for the Anambra State government to also cordon off the area and small axis, because as they are pushing from also to Toba, that Mother Valley, they are going to face down here, the Anambra side. So I was expecting, and I was elated a few days ago, 2 days ago, that another men of Abune Chamber took it off from this Osimo and Udala. So that Mother Valley was captured, and it was collaborative efforts from the Imo State government and Anambra now joining. But unfortunately, when they get to the Mother Valley, it was reported that they have already escaped, that they only demolished the Mother Valley. So I want to say that the matter of insecurity will be collaborative enough and regional inclined, because if we don't make it regional, you will drive them from one state and they'll go and encamp in another area. So I want to commend the men of Abone Chamber and the security operation that is ongoing, so that they will be on alert, because they wanted the army, the army brigade commander in Anambra to stage from that angle, so that they will mop up the criminals. That thank God that they are taking action, and sincerely, a relative peace is returning down to the state. Kudos to the both governors for their work, so that we can stamp out banditry or any form of criminality that these guys has an idea.
All right, thank you. Let's head over to Facebook now.
Okay, we'll begin with the post from Dr. Mrs. Molebra from Orimo State. She says, many Nigerians, the followership and indeed the masses are fast on learning the qualities of morality, discipline, justice, fairness, etc. They have taken to a new religious creed of if you can't beat them, you join them. They have taken to the culture of defying corruption, thieving, and bestial leadership in order to have the next day's meal. I am afraid that if this madness is allowed to continue, sycophancy will become a serious consideration for National Merit Award. This one award though. All right. Ugochukwu Frank says it's only fair to retire after 34 years of service. It's a shame to the federal government to allow such an intelligent officer leave after denying him of his position as the IG of this country. Okay, talking about the Frank Mba story, where it was said that he and some other DIGs have retired. Chieluzie Prince says he posted from main market, and he says my take is on Abakieri. I never knew about his release since last. From a top APC politician in Abuja. He said, and I quote, they are striking a deal with him, and after that he will be released and also reinstalled back as a police officer, and will be given more powers to go after some top politicians with bad records. And they are going to include sponsor for kidnapping and what have you not. So I think he was making reference to the Abba Kyari story, the Super Cop, who was acquitted yesterday by the court on issue regarding non-declaration of assets. Emmanuel Warrior says he posted from Abakaliki, Ebonyi State. He said, please notice that, okay, it's about the audio. Okay, all right. Our engineers are going to get on that. Okay, then. Okay, so this one was asking questions. He was asking questions regarding to somebody you mentioned who was
Farouk
released,
Lawal.
whether it was Ahmed Lawal.
I was referring to Farouk Lawal, not
Okay.
Ahmed Lawal.
Okay, so Oluchi Chima says Omotosho is a corrupt judge. He will release Nabakiere at the end of this case if he is to handle the case to end. Okay. Dandola, sorry. He says, he posted from Abado Bosi, I can't believe that Nigeria has gone this far in the area of insecurity, where 100 of souls go down on daily basis. I can never stop crying for this young NYC member that was abducted, tortured, and killed, even after 10 million ransom was paid. Nigeria is indeed bleeding. Rotratu Biawu Ikechukwu says, he posted from College of Education, so he says, the news about the heavy corruption and embezzlement in the NNPCL doesn't fascinate me anymore. I'm so sure the news will not go beyond this month and it will disappear like other previous cases. As usual, money will exchange hands, people pocket will rise, and the news will be dead. Until we are serious about fighting corruption in this country, we can't get it right. Ifeanyi George Ifediora says the problem we have in this country is that we romance corruption as our culture. How can adding just L, that's limited, cost 5 billion naira? We really need serious orientation in this mind of our leaders. Etete Patrick says, he's asking, which way Nigeria? Please, how do we protect our votes? Because this government must go, okay? And Christian Omunakwa says, insecurity in Nigeria can be solved with economic balance between the urban areas and rural areas of the country. And Christian Onyedika says, our institution will not work because everyone is hungry and greedy. But it will get better when our court starts talking the truth. All our looters should... all protesters should channel our high... I think what you meant to write is that all those who are protesting should channel their energies towards the high court judges. And maybe the last one I might take this very morning before we wrap up is from Walter Prince, and he says, if they fix power in Nigeria, what happens to all those importers of generators in Nigeria? So, Mazimori, thank you. Arinze, thank you. Chiluze Prince and others who posted, thank you all for the posted drop.
All right, then. This is where we get to take down the curtain. Tony, your final words?
Well, we have seen the way things are happening. The onus lies on those who are in the position of leadership to see to some of the complaints Nigerians are having, making at the same time. Most times when we talk about security in a number of states, now everybody's understanding and appreciating the level of security we have in the state. Most times if you say things like this, they will say you are this, you are that. But it's good that I listen to callers that appreciated such effort. If you go to other states, you may not even know the kind of things they are facing in those states. But as we have it, our own is to ensure that the government is supported for progressive ideals and progressive agenda. We'll keep calling on government. Issue of electricity, we know very well it is now under concurrent list. It's no more under the legislative exclusive legislative list. It's something state government can come into. That's why we are having this first power, manpower. They are quick. Most discos are quick to form regulatory, or what do you call it, they are subsidiaries, so that they will be under the state regulatory body. But they are not quick to ensure that they improve on the services. I'm calling on even the government of Anambra State, government of Enugu State, allow competitors. Monopoly is very dangerous. That's why these things are happening. Anybody who has what it takes to generate or distribute or transmit, because electricity as we have it now is no more under exclusive legislative list. It's under concurrent list. Investors, those who would want to put in their money, and they must also be guaranteed that they will have return on investment. We want people to, let's do something. Modular electricity substations can also go a long way. It's not what we are having. What we are having is totally unacceptable. As if we are living in a dark age, stone age. That's what we are having now. It's very, very disturbing. I'm not talking about those who would also want to give communicate to the people is because everybody's under them. If when we have other providers, things like this will not continue. It's an abnormality, it's absurdity.
All right, then. Thank you, Tony, for your wonderful analysis today. Franklin, your parting shots, please.
Kanla Tony on. Now, it's good he told every dimension of, state government going the way of independent power initiatives. And I must say that it's quite appalling that in the whole of the Southeast, the only state that had decided to go this very way is Imo State.
Is it Imo?
Yes, under the Light Up Imo initiative, where they have started to, build their own independent power, the one we know as Orashi electricity project. And the essence is that they want to take over the abandoned Eboma power plant so that they can generate. And we will be able to compete with New Era Power, which is a subsidiary of EDC in Imo State. That was why at the point in time, it appears if EDC and Imo State government were having issues. They were in accusations. So that is the only way you can have competition and be able to increase power supply in your own state.
Better service.
But once you're depending on the expertise in quote of the disco down here, EDC and the subsidiaries, Okabokwa, just like you left where you are and returned to where you were. That's the way it is. Whether it's First Power or EDC, Okabuka, Ufuakwa, Kenan, and then it's the same thing.
All right, then. Thank you, Franklin. We'll see you again on Monday, same time, 9:15 down to 11 a.m. right here on Udala Radio 104.7 FM. I'll see you at 12:25 on the Fun Friday edition of the Cherry Box. I am Chisom Chinedi. Good morning to you. Don't touch that dial. We've still got a lot of amazing stuff coming up for you right here on Udala Radio 104.7 FM.
Of movement. A city of